In Book 12, Odysseus continues his narrative in the past as he returns with his men to Circe's island to give Elpenor a proper burial as he promised. There, Circe explains that he'll face sirens, beautiful singers whose songs have led many sailors to their death, crashing off course onto the rocks. He tells his men to put wax in their ears so they cannot hear the song of the sirens. However, Odysseus was tempted and he decided that he wanted to hear their song. He has his men bind him to the mast of the ship so he can't escape, but he can still listen to the sirens' song. He lives and overcomes the odds.
His next trial is getting past Charybdis and Scylla. Charybdis is a sea monster in the form of a whirlpool, and Scylla is a multi-headed monster who is immortal. Scylla ends up eating 6 of his men, but he escapes Charybdis, who could have destroyed his ship. The rest of the men and Odysseus are able to quickly escape and land on the island of the sun god Helios. While there, Odysseus warns his men not to eat the cattle, but eventually they become hungry and tired and end up eating them while Odysseus is asleep.
Helios is furious after he warned Odysseus to tell his men not to eat his cattle, and they still disobeyed. Helios reaches out to Zeus and demands punishment for the men. Zeus sends a storm that crushes Odysseus' ship, leaving only him alive, clinging to a board of a raft, then landing on Calypso's island, where he has been stranded all this time. Circe aids Odysseus in his mission to get back to Ithaca by giving him advice about avoiding the dangers at sea as much as possible. Book 12 is the story of how Odysseus arrived at Calypso's island where he has remained this whole time. Odysseus' men thought that they could get away with eating Helios' cattle, but instead they were killed by a storm from Zeus due to their disobedience.
This shows how he was able to get his ship past the 2 monsters. These monsters were immortal, but Odysseus was able to lead his men and only 6 of them died. This line helps the reader to understand Zeus's position as a Greek god. This is a message from the sun god Helios that they must not harm the cattle on his island. This is an important message because in the future, when they disobey his command, there are fatal consequences.
He will not see his lady nor his children in joy, crowding around him home from sea. The sirens will sing his mind away on their sweet meadow lolling. There are bones of dead man riding in a pile beside them, and flayed skins shrivel around the spot. Steer wide, keep well to seaward. Plug your oarsmen's ears with beeswax and kneaded soft. None of the rest should hear that song.
Let the men tie you in the logger, hand and foot, back to the mast, so you may hear those harpies' thrilling voices. Shout as you will, begging to be untied. Your crew must only twist more line around you and keep up their stroke, till the singers fade. What then? One of 2 courses you may take, and you yourself must sway them. I shall not plan the whole action for you now, but only tell you of both. These lines are spoken by Circe, who explains to Odysseus what will occur on his voyage home from the Trojan War. She speaks of sirens whose beautiful voices will draw them in, and could lead to their demise, if they do not take the special precaution she describes. Circe tells Odysseus that he must tell his men to put wax in their ears to prevent them from hearing the songs of the siren. In case Odysseus desires to hear their song, then he may have his men tie him to the mast of the ship so he cannot escape. In the passage of the epic convention Deus Ex Machina is revealed by Circe intervening in Odysseus' journey by giving him valuable advice.
This develops Odysseus' character because it shows how he's very insistent and is eager to hear the siren song despite the risk of death. He is wise for following Circe's advice and making his men plug their ears with wax and tying himself to the mast to prevent them crashing off course. The passage reveals the theme that a person must know their weaknesses in order to overcome a challenge. Odysseus displays this theme when he tells his men beforehand that if he wants to be untied to go to the Sirens, that they must tie him tighter. He knew that when tempted by the Sirens that he would be drawn to them, so he made a plan to be able to resist his urges.
Book 12 occurred about 1 year into the Odyssey on the timeline.